Hi there, I'm Eileen. Right after my surgery, I came home to find my car gone. And my sister? She just smiled and said, "You weren't using it anyway." That moment, it was just the start. Turns out, she'd been using my name for loans, credit cards, even car insurance, all behind my back. And my parents? They knew, they excused it. Said I was overreacting. Said it was just family. But how do you fight back when your whole family's in on the lie? And how far would they go if you finally said no? I came home expecting silence, not betrayal. The hospital had discharged me that morning. Thyroid surgery, outpatient, nothing glamorous. I was groggy but upright, still in my post-op sweats with gauze along my neck. My neighbor, Mrs. Carter, dropped me off. She offered to walk me up, but I lied and said I was fine. I wasn't. The apartment was colder than I remembered. No flowers. No welcome back card on the counter, just stale air and unopened mail. I stood still for a second, letting my body remember what home was supposed to feel like. Then I reached for my keys, out of muscle memory more than anything. The hook by the door was empty. I blinked. Maybe I left them in the hospital bag. I checked the side pocket. Nothing. A tight pulse started building in the center of my chest. I opened the hall closet. Nope. Then I turned toward the garage. The click of the door unlocking sounded loud in the stillness. I pulled it open and stared at the vacant spot where my Subaru usually sat. Gone. At first, I thought it had been towed, but that didn't make sense. My HOA hadn't sent any notice. No citations. The garage door had been closed the entire time. I stepped outside, scanning the quiet cul-de-sac. All the neighbors' cars were parked in their usual places. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing stolen. Except mine. The cold from the floor started to creep up through my socks. I backed into the kitchen, grabbed my phone with shaky fingers, and hit Marla. She picked up on the third ring, laughing about something in the background. "Hey, what's up?" I cut to the point. "Where's my car?" There was a pause, then a loud sip, followed by, "Oh yeah, I took it. You weren't using it anyway." Silence on my end. She kept going, light as ever. "Joni had practice. I didn't think you'd mind. You were out of it, right?" "You didn't think to ask?" My voice came out lower than I expected. "I figured it was fine. I mean, family borrows stuff. Relax." That word, relax, hit like an elbow to the ribs. "I was in surgery, Marla, not on vacation." "Exactly," she said, like it proved her point. "So you weren't driving." I ended the call without saying goodbye. I didn't even realize I'd sat down on the kitchen floor until my back touched the cabinets. My hands were clammy. My chest was tight, and for the first time since the surgery, I felt something stronger than painkillers. Disbelief. Later that night, I opened Instagram. Don't ask me why. I should have known better. There she was. Marla had posted a boomerang of Joni in my car, twisting in the front seat with oversized sunglasses and a milkshake. The caption? "Cheer mom life, #blessed. But that wasn't the worst part. The previous post was a photo of me in the hospital bed. Eyes shut, oxygen still in my nose, taken from the foot of my bed without me knowing. The caption read, "Holding down the fort while big sis heals #family first #sacrifice." The likes rolled in. "You're such a good sister. Joni is lucky to have you." I wish my family was like this. I felt sick. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling until the room blurred. Did they even think of me as a person anymore? Or just a backup plan? At some point, I turned off all the lights, sat on the bedroom floor in silence. My breath came uneven, like my lungs couldn't keep up. It wasn't just about the car, it was the entitlement, the assumption that my life was open access just because I was quiet, reliable. People don't steal from strangers. They steal from the ones who won't fight back. I whispered into the dark. Did they ever actually take care of me, or did they just take? No one answered, not even my reflection in the window. The room smelled like antiseptic and winter air. My body was healing. My trust? That was something else entirely. The worst part wasn't that my car was gone. It was that she smiled like I should be grateful. Sleep didn't come easy after that night. Not because of the pain, my stitches barely pulled now, but because everything in me felt invaded. Like my life had been rearranged without my permission, and no one even thought I'd notice. Around 2 a.m., I gave up pretending I could rest. The street outside was quiet, the kind of silence that made my thoughts louder. I got out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and padded to the kitchen where my laptop still sat charging. A part of me already knew something wasn't right. The way Marla smiled, the confidence in her tone. That wasn't someone who'd just borrowed a car. That was someone who knew exactly how far she'd gone. I opened the DMV site. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Just curiosity, I told myself, just making sure. I typed in my plate number, then my VIN. The screen loaded slowly, one bar at a time, and then it hit me. Line holder. Rapid Pawn and Auto Loans lien date. February 11th, 2025. Owner. Eileen S. Kravitz. I stared at the screen, blinking. I read it again. And again. My name was still there, but now it was attached to a collateral agreement. That's not borrowing. That's pawning. That's intentional. I called the number listed. It rang twice. Then a tired voice answered, "Yeah, Rapid Pawn. After hours line." "I think someone transferred my car title under my name without permission," I said, voice shaky. The guy didn't sound surprised. "What's the name on file?" I told him. A pause. Then, "Yeah, that came through last week. Eileen S. Kravitz. Brought in the car, Idaho, and signed docs. All good on our end." He didn't know I was Eileen. My mouth went dry. "Can I see those documents?" "Sure. Send me an email from the registered account and we'll send a scan." I hung up, heart pounding, and typed out a request faster than I thought my hands could move. 10 minutes later, a PDF landed in my inbox. There it was, a contract, a signature. My signature, almost. It was close. Too close, but cleaner, straighter. Like someone had practiced. Like someone had traced me. "Proof of ID provided," it said. Attached was a scan of my actual driver's license. I stared at that copy, trying to breathe, trying to remember how this was even possible. And then I did, last summer, printer jam at the library. I needed to upload my ID for a background check at work. Marla had been with me. She'd offered to help. "Just email it to yourself and print it from mine," she said, like it was no big deal. I hadn't thought twice, but now I was seeing it. That was the start of the paper trail. Sick to my stomach, I clicked open another tab. Credit Karma. I hadn't checked my credit in months. No reason to. I barely spent. I lived simple. The dashboard took a second to load. And then, Nebula Rewards Visa, opened, July 2024. Balance, $1,926.34. Status, past due, 30-plus days account holder, Eileen S. Kravitz. Billing address, 2129 Briar Hollow, Ard. Marla's house. My breath stilled. I clicked through the statements, streaming subscriptions, online shopping, something called Bounce Heaven Rentals, a kid's party place. She wasn't just using my car. She was living a double life, with my credit. This wasn't a moment. It was a method. I sat there frozen, bathed in the blue light of the screen, while my cat rubbed against my shin for attention I couldn't give. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was past tears. Past anger, even. I was entering something else, some space beyond betrayal where the only thing louder than shock is clarity. My voice came out quiet, hoarse. She didn't just borrow my car, she borrowed my life. My brain flicked back to a birthday dinner years ago. My 33rd. Marla hadn't gotten me a card. She'd shown up late with Joni and said, "Hey, I hate to ask, but can you spot me $300? School stuff. I swear I'll pay you next week." Of course I did. I always did. That was the first lie. I just hadn't recognized it as one back then. Now, sitting at my kitchen table in the middle of the night, staring at digital proof of how far this had gone, I knew better. I wasn't overreacting. I was uncovering a pattern. By the time Saturday rolled around, I was emotionally hollow, but physically better. The bruising on my neck had started to fade, the stitches itched less, and the surgical glue flaked like old regret. Joni's sleepover had been planned months ago, before all of this, before I knew my sister was capable of fraud. I'd forgotten about it until Marla texted, "Still good for tonight? She's got her overnight bag." For a second I considered canceling. I had every right to, but Joni wasn't the problem. She was just 12, smart, sweet, too observant for her own good, and I didn't want to punish her for her mother's decisions. So I said yes. I borrowed my coworker Dana's car. She lived one floor below, and picked Joni up around 4:30. The kid came bounding out in pink sneakers and glitter lip gloss, waving like we were headed to a birthday party. The first 10 minutes of the drive were all school gossip, and which teacher had a weird laugh. I just nodded, my hands tight on the steering wheel, waiting for it. The mention. And it came. "Mom said your car's in the shop," Joni chirped, unwrapping a granola bar. "But she also said you probably don't feel like driving anyway, so it worked out." I glanced over. "She said that?" "Yeah. She told Grandma that too, that she's just helping while you're sick." I gripped the wheel tighter. "Did your mom say why she didn't ask me first?" Joni thought for a second. "She said family doesn't always have to ask. That you'd get it. That you always do." That last line sounded too rehearsed for a kid to invent. We rode the rest of the way in silence, the kind that settles between the seats and stretches like fog. Later that night, after Joni had showered and curled up on the couch with a Disney movie, I called my mom. She answered on speaker, which she always did now, half out of convenience, half out of nosiness. "Hi, sweetheart. How's Joni doing?" "She's fine," I said flatly. "But that's not why I'm calling." "Oh?" Her voice had that cautious lilt, the kind she used when she knew something was coming, but hoped smiling through it would fix it. "I found out Marla pawned my car, Mom, with forged documents. She used my ID and signature. She didn't just borrow it." There was a pause. Then, "Well, honey, your sister's been juggling a lot. Joni's in activities every day. The bills add up." I blinked. "Are you defending her?" "No, I'm just saying, we've all leaned on each other. We helped you when you were getting started." "You mean when I was 22 and still working 2 jobs while covering rent for both of us?" "Honey, don't be dramatic. It's just a car." "Just a car." I felt something inside me snap like a rubber band stretched too thin. "That car was mine. It was in my name. You think it's okay for her to steal just because we're family?" "She didn't steal. She borrowed." "Borrowing requires consent." Velma sighed. "Look, maybe it wasn't the best choice, but we're family. Things aren't always black and white." I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted metal. "Then stop acting like I owe her a life sentence for being born first." She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat at the kitchen counter, lit only by the microwave clock. Joni had fallen asleep in the living room. I could hear the soft hum of animated voices and her rhythmic breathing. Peaceful, untouched. I opened my laptop. There, in a folder marked Personal, I started a spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason, outcome. 2019, covered Marla's rent, $900, never repaid. 2020, Joni's birthday bike, $220, no thanks. 2022, Mom's fridge broke, $480. Later found out it didn't. Line after line, I wrote down every memory I had once convinced myself to forget. It wasn't revenge, it was documentation. A breadcrumb trail for my own clarity. I whispered, "It's just a car? Then why does it feel like I was stolen too?" The numbers didn't lie. Neither did the pattern. If I was overreacting, why did the math finally make sense? The spreadsheet stayed open on my screen long after I stopped typing. I wasn't adding numbers anymore. I was staring through them. The kind of stare that isn't about seeing, but about absorbing the reality you've ignored for too long. That Sunday, my parents invited me for dinner. Part of me wanted to decline, to fake a migraine or blame recovery, but I showed up anyway. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already suspected. Maybe I was testing whether the betrayal was a fluke or a family sport. I arrived just before 5. The house smelled like pot roast and rosemary. Velma's way of saying, "Nothing's wrong," without ever saying it. Marla was already there, barefoot in the living room with a glass of white wine, laughing at something Joni said. No one brought up the car. No one mentioned the pawn shop, or the forged signature, or the fact that they'd all gone silent for days after I found out. It was like walking into a theater mid-play. Everyone already memorized their lines, pretending mine didn't matter. As I took off my coat in the kitchen, something caught my eye. A key ring hanging by the pantry door. Familiar. Bright blue fob, slight chip on the edge. My spare. "Dad," I called into the hallway, "is that my car key?" He appeared around the corner, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Yeah, Marla needed it. You were recovering. Figured it'd save time." I stared at him. "That wasn't your call to make." Dennis blinked, then shrugged like I'd commented on the weather. She's your sister. We thought you'd be okay with it. I opened my mouth, but Velma swooped in. Her voice sweetened like overripe fruit. Let's not turn this into a thing, Eileen. Sit, eat, everyone's hungry. I sat, but the food tasted like paper. Halfway through dinner, I put my fork down. Did you know she pawned it? Marla barely looked up. God, you're still on that? Velma's wine glass clinked softly as she set it down. It's not like she drove it across the border, sweetheart. She needed help. That's what family does. Without asking? She knew you wouldn't say no. I turned to Marla. Did you think I'd find out? Marla took a sip. Eventually, but honestly, you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's just a car. My jaw clenched. No, it's a boundary you stomped on, and now you're acting like I should apologize for noticing. Velma leaned in slightly. You've always been more delicate, Eileen. Let's not escalate this. There it was, that word. Delicate. Not sensitive, not thoughtful, not even calm. Just delicate. Like I was too fragile to function. Like any resistance from me was some nervous breakdown in disguise. I chewed that word the rest of dinner. Didn't swallow it. That night, after dropping Joni back home, I texted someone I hadn't talked to in months. Sophie. Hey, I typed. I'm sorry I let them push you away. You were right. She replied in under a minute. Still here. You didn't push me. They did. What happened? Flashback hit like a slap. Sophie telling me 2 years ago, Marla doesn't ask. She assumes. That's not love. That's use. Back then, Velma had called Sophie a little too invested in my life, told me she was stirring tension. I had pulled away, chose quiet, chose loyalty over truth. Now I saw what Sophie had seen all along. Back home, I opened my inbox, created a new draft. Subject, boundary. One sentence. Don't use anything with my name on it again. Not my key, not my kindness. I didn't hit send, not yet, but I saved it. Something shifted. Not loud, not violent, but permanent. They didn't steal my car. They stole my voice, and I'm just now getting it back. By the time the weekend came, my inbox was flooded with junk mail, delivery alerts, and digital coupons I never signed up for. I was halfway through deleting them when one email stopped me cold. Subject, your Zenith auto insurance policy confirmation. I didn't remember opening a policy. Inside the message was a warm corporate greeting, thanking me for enrolling in coverage for a 2021 Dodge Grand Caravan. I didn't own a Dodge anything. Under policyholder, it read, Eileen S. Kravitz, my name, my full legal name. Again. I felt that punch in the chest all over again. Like I was back at the hospital, waking up groggy, trusting everyone to do right by me. I called the number listed. A woman named Gina picked up. Friendly, Midwest accent. Yes, we processed that policy online. We have the SSN, your driver's license, the registered email, all matched. Can you tell me the address on file? She read it. It wasn't mine. It was Marla's. I barely remembered hanging up. I just stood there, staring at the microwave clock like it could fix this. It wasn't even about the car anymore. This was my identity. And she was wearing it like a borrowed coat. I didn't text. I didn't give her a heads up. I called. Marla picked up on the third ring. Hey, what now? You opened a new insurance policy in my name? A pause. Then laughter. Oh my God, again with this? You really need to chill. It's insurance, Eileen. It's not like I bought a house in your name. You didn't ask. You don't even drive that much. I figured that's called fraud. Her tone sharpened. Family doesn't press charges. I could hear Joni laughing in the background. A sitcom played from the TV. Or do you think you're better than us now? She added. I took a slow breath. No, I finally understand that I deserve better. She hung up, and I didn't call back. That night I sat on my couch, scrolling mindlessly, trying to distract myself when a text came in from Lena, my cousin. Hey, everything okay? Mom said you've been kinda off since surgery. Then one from Aunt Dorothy. Praying for your mental clarity, sweet girl. You're loved even when you're not yourself. I blinked at the screen. My hands started shaking, not from sadness, from fury. They were reframing the narrative, turning me into the unstable one, again. Velma hadn't just dismissed my pain at dinner. She was now feeding it to the entire family, spoonful by spoonful, garnished with concern. That was her trick, always had been. Soft lies served with sweet tones. She's going through a lot. She's just sensitive. She means well, but she overthinks things. It was character assassination with a smile. And the worst part? It worked. Because I'd spent years being polite, forgiving, dull enough that any hint of fire now looked like a meltdown. I stared at my phone for a full minute before opening another tab on my browser. Asheville Family Law Attorneys. I found one with quiet reviews. No flashy slogans, just facts. I dialed the number. My voice was calm. My spine wasn't. Hi, I need to speak to someone about repeated misuse of my personal information. The receptionist asked, Are you referring to fraud? Yes, I said. By my sister. She paused. Has this happened more than once? Yes, I said again. And I'm done letting it slide. I hung up, walked to the kitchen, poured water, no wine, no tears, just resolve. I opened my drafts folder and reread the email I hadn't sent to Marla. The one about boundaries. The one I thought was enough. But this time, I wouldn't just say no. This time, the boundary wasn't emotional. It was legal. By the following Thursday, I had it in my hands. A folder. A real one. Not a Google Drive file or a shared note, but a thick manila folder. The kind that feels heavier than it should. The kind with weight beyond the paper inside. Its cover was stamped with the name of the law office in a faded blue ink, but it might as well have been branded with every betrayal I'd endured in silence. Inside were months of careful documentation. Printouts, statements, screenshots. Each page a brick in the wall I was finally building between me and them. Every transaction I never made. Every email sent under my name but not by my hand. Every time someone said I was overreacting or just being dramatic. Those dismissals were in there too, coded in the evidence I'd collected. I carried years of silence into that building. Cartwright Law, second floor. No music in the waiting room. Just the slow, repetitive tick of a cheap plastic clock mounted above the door. I remember that clock clearly. It ticked like it was mocking me, measuring the weight of time I'd spent not speaking up. I sat stiffly in the waiting chair, gripping the folder like it might try to slip away from me. My palms were damp, my back ached from tension, but I didn't loosen my grip. The receptionist, a woman with a tidy bun and kind eyes that didn't ask questions, called my name. I followed her down a short hallway lined with framed certificates and legal accolades. We reached a modest office. No frills, just a desk, a few bookshelves, and a man behind the desk who looked exactly how I imagined someone named Mr. Cartwright would look. Tweed blazer, wire-frame reading glasses low on his nose, a clean desk with only a notepad and a legal pad beside it. No small talk, no how are you or what brings you in. Just a slight nod and a hand extended toward the folder I was still gripping like a lifeline. He sat, opened it and started reading. Page by page he flipped, skimmed, paused, made occasional notes in the margins with a ballpoint pen. After a while he murmured, more to himself than to me. This is good, chronological, detailed, even includes IP matches. You've been very thorough. I answered without hesitation. I had to be. He glanced up at me briefly, not with sympathy, but with something else. A quiet acknowledgement, like he'd seen this pattern before, like he already knew the type of people I was up against. You've been exploited, he said calmly, systematically, and they counted on your silence. I nodded. My hands were still, jaw locked. I wasn't crying anymore. That phase had passed. So, I asked, voice quieter than I expected, do I have a case? He looked up again. No hesitation. It's airtight. That night, I sat on the floor of my living room, legs crossed under me, surrounded by papers. Insurance claims I didn't recognize. Credit card statements showing purchases in cities I'd never visited. Loan documents I'd never signed. All of it, fanned out like a morbid jigsaw puzzle. The blue light from my laptop screen lit the room. I scrolled through archived emails. Years' worth. Some flagged, some still unread. There. A receipt for a mattress I never ordered, shipped to Marla's address. An online furniture set. A Walmart Plus subscription. It was all there. Not just fraud. Not just identity theft. She hadn't borrowed pieces of my life. She'd constructed her own with them, used my name as scaffolding. I checked my credit score. It had dropped 112 points. One of my oldest cards, a backup card I rarely touched, had been maxed and was now in collections. I hadn't even known. My hands felt like ice, but my teeth were clenched so tightly it gave me a headache. I opened a new Word document. At the top, I typed, "Cease and desist, Eileen S. Kravitz." I didn't stop writing. The keys clicked furiously under my fingers, filling the silence. I wrote until I'd listed every account number, every stolen transaction, every shipping address that wasn't mine but was used in my name. I didn't just write one letter. I wrote two. One was addressed to Marla, the other to Velma, because one had committed the fraud, but the other had enabled it, pretended not to see, made excuses, looked away when it suited her. That's betrayal, too. The next morning, gray light filled the sky. It had rained sometime during the night, and everything looked softer, quieter. I drove across town in silence. No music, no calls. Just the steady hum of the engine and the sealed envelope on the passenger seat. When I got to my parents' house, I didn't park in the driveway. I didn't ring the bell. I walked up to the porch, placed the envelope carefully on the bench, and walked back to my car without looking behind me. They didn't deserve to see my face. Not anymore. Back home, I took the second envelope, the one for Marla, and placed it in my mailbox, flagged for certified delivery. I clicked, "Notify me when delivered," on the USPS site and shut the browser window. Then I made chamomile tea, sat on the couch. Clementine, my cat, curled up beside me like she always did when something in the air shifted. She knew. Animals always do. I breathed deeply, finally able to exhale without the weight of dread in my chest. For the first time in weeks, my body didn't hurt. Not from the surgery, not from the stress, not from holding it all in. I wasn't waiting for a phone call or apology. I wasn't bracing for someone to justify what they did or try to gaslight me into thinking it wasn't that bad. They had always told me that love meant not making waves, that family meant forgiveness, even when it was undeserved. But they drowned me in silence and expectation. Now I was the one drawing the boundary. I was done treading water. I leaned back, let the warmth of the tea settle in my chest, and whispered to the empty room, "I'm not angry, I'm done." No calls came, no text messages, no panic, just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like peace. They had taken so much, time, money, trust, but not this. This line in the sand? It was mine. The silence held for 4 days. 4 days of stillness, of no calls, no texts, no half-hearted apologies wrapped in concern. Just the kind of hollow quiet that comes not from remorse but calculation. I recognized it. Then on the 5th day it arrived, not as a phone call, not even as a message typed out in haste, but as a card. Real paper, heavy stock, cream-colored with slightly frayed edges, as if handled too many times before being dropped into the mailbox. Inside, written in Velma's tight slanted cursive, were 6 words: Sunday dinner, family reset, 6 p.m. No salutation. No, we miss you. No acknowledgement of what had been said or done. Just an order disguised as an invitation. A reset. As if everything that happened could be filed under misunderstanding. As if all it would take was one meal to erase a cease and desist. 20 years of gaslighting, and a digital paper trail thicker than Velma's Thanksgiving gravy. I stared at the card for a full minute before placing it face down on the counter. I already knew what it meant. This wasn't peace. This wasn't even a truce. It was damage control. They weren't inviting me to heal. They were calling me back to formation, and they assumed I'd obey. Sunday arrived cold and sharp, the sky a pale blue stretched thin over bare trees. I dressed carefully. Navy slacks, a gray cashmere sweater. No jewelry, no makeup beyond concealer and lip balm. Neutral, unprovoking. My version of armor. The kind you wear when you're expected to perform civility under siege. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same. It always did. A little too neat, like someone had walked through just minutes before fluffing pillows and straightening curtains to make sure it looked presentable. Velma's standard. Inside, Everything was curated to project normalcy. The table was dressed to impress. Wine glasses shined under dim lighting, cloth napkins folded into perfect triangles, and a roast sat steaming on a silver tray at the center of the table, like it had been waiting for a Better Homes and Gardens shoot. It was all performance. Marla greeted me at the door with a smirk, eyes scanning me like a TSA agent. She leaned in and kissed my cheek like we hadn't exchanged legal documents the week before. Dennis gave me a slight nod, just enough to say, "I'm here," not enough to say he cared. Joni didn't say a word. She hovered near the hallway entrance, arms crossed, expression tight. Velma swept in from the kitchen, her apron neatly tied, her voice forced cheerful. "Let's eat while it's hot." We sat, we chewed, in silence so brittle it might have cracked under a whisper. I waited, gave them a chance to speak first. They didn't take it, so I did. "Did you even read the letter?" Forks paused mid-motion. Marla didn't lift her eyes. Dennis focused hard on his plate. Velma blinked slowly, then exhaled like I'd knocked over a vase. "You're really going to burn down this family over a few bills?" Marla said, casually vicious, like she was asking about a parking ticket. Velma followed up with a sigh that could have iced a glass of tea. "We thought this was just a phase, that you'd cool off." There it was, the old narrative, that my anger was a passing storm, something hormonal, temporary, unreasonable. "I see," I said calmly, setting my fork down. "So that's why you told Aunt Laura I was seeing a psychiatrist for paranoia?" Velma didn't flinch. "You've been acting unpredictable." Unpredictable. The go-to word for any woman who stops saying yes. Marla chimed in, tone laced with syrup and spite. "Honestly, you're scaring Joni." I looked across the table. Joni was still staring at her plate, her bottom lip trembling. "She's scared," I said gently, "because you told her I was dangerous. Not because I am." Silence. But it wasn't empty. It was full of guilt, of fear, of the weight of truth no one wanted to carry. They didn't deny it. They didn't defend it. They didn't say a single word. I didn't stay for dessert. That night, while Joni was in the guest bathroom, the water running, the hum of the shower drowning out the world, she left her tablet on the kitchen island, unlocked. I walked past it at first, then paused. The screen was still lit. A notification blinked across the top. Group chat, Kravitz Core. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. A single swipe, just one. I didn't mean to open it, but I did. And what I found wasn't a conversation. It was a blueprint, a playbook, a real-time dissection of my resistance. Marla. "She thinks a cease and desist will scare us." Velma. "Let her throw her tantrum. She'll come back, she always does." Dennis. "We raised her too soft." Marla again. "She's acting like she's Oprah just because she filed some papers." I stared at the screen until the glow dimmed and shut off. Then I turned on my laptop. 20 pages. Screenshots, timestamps, chat history. All of it printed in black and white. I didn't annotate it. Didn't write a cover letter. Just one thing on the front page, in thick black Sharpie. "This is why I'm done." Before the sun rose, I drove across town. The streets were dark and still. The only sounds were the distant hum of early traffic and the faint buzz of street lamps overhead. I pulled up in front of Velma's house, got out, slid the envelope into her mailbox, closed the lid. I didn't leave a note, no signature, no message explaining why. Because it wasn't about getting them to understand anymore. It was about removing their ability to pretend they didn't know. They never thought I'd fight back. Now they're not just stunned I did. They're scared I might win. The week that followed was quiet, not peaceful, just unnaturally still. No texts, no calls, not even a snide comment from one of the cousins who usually made it their job to check in through vague Facebook replies. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel like resolution, just a pause. The eye of a storm. I knew better than to think it was over. The winds had shifted direction, not disappeared. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Joni. She stood on my porch with her backpack slung over one shoulder, her sneakers untied, and a sheepish look that didn't belong on a 10-year-old's face. "Hi," she said. "Mom said she had a dentist thing, asked if you could watch me." The message had come from Marla earlier, short and vague. No apology, just a request. I said yes, not for Marla's sake, but because Joni was the only person in that house who hadn't weaponized her relationship with me. Joni curled up on the couch while I made popcorn. Cartoons buzzed from the television, something bright and loud that didn't quite match the heavy air in the room. Her hair was damp, probably from gym class, and she wrapped herself in my throw blanket like she was trying to disappear. Midway through her snack, she said it quietly, like a secret she wasn't sure she was supposed to keep. Mom said not to tell you she used your name again. I froze, not visibly. My hand stayed in my lap, but my stomach dropped. My pulse pounded in my teeth. She said it's easier if you don't know, Joni added, eyes still on the screen. There it was. The truth, from the one person who hadn't learned yet how to twist it. She also said not to talk about the phone, or the iPad, or the movie thing. What movie thing? I asked, keeping my voice calm. The account, Netflix or Hulu or something. It has your name on it. I thought it was a gift. That last word hit like a gut punch. Gift. Like she believed I had given her mother permission to keep taking pieces of my identity, wrapping them up as generosity. Joni's voice cracked. Was it not? I leaned in and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. No, sweetie, it wasn't. She blinked slowly. Oh, and that was it. She turned back to the television, a cartoon fox yelling about friendship or some other innocent thing. I didn't press. I didn't need to. I stepped into the hallway, where I let myself exhale. My lungs worked overtime, struggling to keep up with the pressure that had ballooned in my chest. It wasn't just about stolen money anymore, or the accounts, or even the lies. It was about the rot. The slow poison they had started feeding Joni, the way they folded her into their games and covered it with sugar. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to pretend I didn't know what I had to do. But by sunrise, I did. At 10 a.m., I drove to my parents' house. No text, no warning, no performance. Pamela opened the door in slippers, her expression surprised. You didn't say you were coming. I don't need permission anymore. I stepped inside. Marla sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Dennis was on the couch, half asleep, the TV muted but still playing. No one looked guilty, just irritated that I'd arrived without notice. I know what you told Joni, I said, standing in the middle of the room. Marla didn't even look up. She talks too much. She tells the truth, I said. That's more than I can say for you. Dennis mumbled something I didn't catch. I didn't ask him to repeat it. I stepped forward and placed a thick envelope on the table. This one wasn't symbolic. It was documentation, explicit, dated. If I see one more charge, one more subscription, one more dollar tied to my name, I will take this to court. No hesitation, no guilt. Pamela stood, folding her arms. You wouldn't do that to your own sister. My voice didn't waver. She already did it to me. I'm just finishing what she started. No one argued, no yelling, just a silence that said they knew I wasn't bluffing. I left without slamming the door. Outside, the sunlight felt different, warm and heavy, like something had lifted. I took a long breath, not to steady myself, but to feel something again. Something that belonged to me. By the time I got home, my phone buzzed. Joni. I told the truth. Are you mad? I stared at the message, then typed back slowly. No, I'm proud of you. No emoji, no extra words, just the truth. They say blood is thicker than water. But gasoline is thicker too, and I wasn't the one holding the match. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped pretending it still connected us. A month passed, not in a rush, not in silence, just naturally, like when winter thaws and you don't even notice the ice melting until the birds start singing again. The letter came on a Tuesday morning, certified, stamped, sealed in the kind of envelope that used to make my hands shake. But not this time. I sliced it open with a butter knife from the kitchen drawer, sat at my tiny breakfast table and read slowly, line by line. The insurance policy? Canceled. The fraudulent credit card? Closed. The court? Accepted the cease and desist order as valid and enforceable. My name was mine again. No apology. No acknowledgement from anyone involved, just paperwork and quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate, I just inhaled, exhaled, and felt something loosen in my chest I didn't realize was still tight. Later that weekend, I walked to the farmer's market in downtown Asheville. My new place was smaller, but with tall windows and light that didn't ask questions. I had a little corner bookshelf now, a teal rug, and a second-hand armchair I picked up for $40 that fit my body like it had been waiting for me. At the market, I bought a bundle of lavender from a girl who reminded me of Joni, all freckles and nervous smiles. A golden retriever licked an ice cream cone out of a toddler's hand while her parents laughed. There was a man playing guitar on the corner, and even though he was off-key, people dropped coins in his case anyway. Nobody knew me here. Nobody whispered about me, pitied me, or expected anything except a smile or a dollar or a moment of patience at the register. It didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like permission. Back home, I reorganized some boxes in the hallway closet and came across an old shoebox labeled Family. I sat cross-legged on the living room rug and opened it slowly. Photos. My 5th grade school picture with the crooked bangs. A birthday card from Dad that said, "Proud of you," in thick pen. A crayon drawing Joni had made of us holding hands, smiling. I didn't throw anything away, but I didn't keep them close either. I put the lid back on and set the box on the highest shelf, high enough that I'd have to want it badly to pull it down again. Some memories aren't weights, but they're not wings either. That night, I journaled for the first time in weeks. "You weren't overreacting," I wrote. "You were the only one reacting at all. You weren't too sensitive. You were surrounded by people who refused to feel. You weren't difficult. You were honest. And then, finally, you weren't the problem. You were the one who said something." I closed the notebook, set it beside my tea, and watched the sun start to dip below the Blue Ridge skyline. No fireworks, no dramatic ending, just warm light stretching long across the hardwood floor. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. No one controlled me anymore. Not through guilt, not through silence. Some people spend their lives waiting for an apology that never comes. I stopped waiting. I chose peace instead. Some families teach you love. Mine taught me boundaries. And for that, I'm finally free. Before I let you go, I want to share something. Not just as someone who lived through this, but as someone who finally walked out on the other side. If you're watching this and any part of it felt familiar, maybe not the car or the credit cards, but the feeling of being used, dismissed, or made to feel too much for simply setting boundaries, I want you to know this. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're just finally tired of carrying what was never yours to begin with. Family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, about trust. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who expect you to stay silent just so they can stay comfortable. I didn't get justice through revenge. I found peace through truth. And once you choose peace, the kind that doesn't require explanation, no one can take that from you. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone close just to protect your sanity? Or have you ever been called too sensitive for standing up for yourself? Drop a 1 inch in the comments if this story hit something real for you. Or tell me where you're watching from. I read every message, and your stories matter too. And hey, if this video meant something to you or gave you strength today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. We have more real, raw, and powerful stories coming your way. Because sometimes healing starts with knowing you're not the only one. Stay strong, stay kind, and above all, stay true to you.
Useless old-timers like you are fired today. Haha, we don't need you. That's what the new branch manager said to me just a few days after she started at the bank where I've been working for many years. I got it, smirking with a just you wait and see attitude as I left. The next day, a sudden account cancellation of $700 million took everyone by surprise. The bank was about to face a series of unexpected and unbelievable events, all starting from that cancellation. My name is Nancy Johnson, 55 years old. I've been working at this local bank since graduating from community college. I started in a clerical role and worked at the counter. Now I've stepped back to let the younger, adorable bank clerks handle the front desk. I only go to the counter when called upon by a customer. Otherwise, I stay behind the scenes, ready to support my colleagues whenever they need it. Watching them learn their trade and stand on their own feels like nurturing my own children. It's truly enjoyable. By the way, I've been married to my husband Bob for 32 years. He's 2 years older than I and works as an engineer at an electrical company. He's a straightforward guy who hates dishonesty. He's a great listener of my nonsense and a wonderful advisor, always giving me sound advice. We were blessed with 2 children, and now they are married and have moved out, so it's just me and Bob living a peaceful life. Recently, a new branch manager was assigned to our bank. Her name is Elizabeth Anderson, a relatively young woman just 40 years old. She's probably the youngest branch manager we've had in recent years. During her introduction at the morning meeting, she struck me as a strong-willed woman with a very direct manner of speaking. Now that I'm here, I'm going to revitalize this branch and achieve the highest performance nationwide. I need everyone's cooperation, so let's work hard together. She spoke with such clarity and confidence that I immediately knew she was the kind of person I usually find challenging to deal with. After the meeting, the assistant branch manager began showing Elizabeth around the bank and introducing her to the staff. After the morning meeting, we all started cleaning our respective areas of the bank, and I began wiping the windows in the waiting area. That's when Elizabeth and the assistant manager approached me. "Nancy, can I have a word?" "Sure, what's up?" I replied with a smile. "This is Elizabeth, our new branch manager. Elizabeth, this is Nancy Johnson, our most experienced staff member. She's been with us for about 35 years, so if you have any questions, she's the one to ask. She can solve just about anything." While the assistant manager was introducing me, Elizabeth looked me over as if evaluating my worth. "Pleased to meet you. I might not be as impressive as the assistant manager claims, but I do my best every day," I said, feeling a bit nervous in front of the imposing Elizabeth. "Nice to meet you too. You seem to suit window cleaning quite well." "Excuse me." As I was stunned, she chuckled. "I thought you were the janitor for a moment. Well, if I have any questions, I'll be sure to ask you, Nancy. Let's move on." Sure," I replied. "Sorry, Nancy," he said, and the two went straight to the conference room. Never before had I been mocked like that upon first meeting someone. "How rude," I asked a young colleague cleaning up some scattered magazines nearby. "Hey, do I really look like a janitor?" "Of course not. You certainly have a mood of a dependable mother, but definitely have the presence of a veteran banker, Nancy. That new branch manager is off to a bad start on her first day." I wonder if that's a compliment or not. It's hard to tell, I thought to myself as I regretted asking the younger colleague for her opinion. But maybe it's not entirely wrong to say I'm motherly. I'd admit I can be a bit naggy. I do tend to fuss over the younger staff. Even after that, the assistant manager continued to show Elizabeth around. The break room was buzzing with rumors about her. Listening in, it seemed that nobody had a good impression of her, which wasn't surprising after seeing her attitude. But maybe she's as capable as she looks. Perhaps it takes someone as assertive as her to lead the branch to greater heights, as she said in the morning assembly. I decided not to jump to conclusions and to observe for a while. When I got home, I told Bob about Elizabeth, the new branch manager. He seemed displeased too and said, "Sounds like a nasty piece of work. You can't just run away from your job, so try to avoid her as much as possible." I resolved to stay away from Elizabeth as much as I could. The next day, after the morning assembly, the assistant manager announced he would be away on a business trip for 4 days and asked us to manage things in his absence. Elizabeth sat down heavily at the manager's desk and began reading the newspaper. Unexpectedly, she called me over. "I'm reading the newspaper here," she said. Wondering what she meant, I saw her sigh in exasperation. "Oh, don't you get it? Could you make me some coffee?" "Oh, okay, sure. Just a moment." Surprised and astonished by her arrogance, I went to prepare her coffee. In the break room, I overheard another male colleague venting to a female colleague. He was upset because Elizabeth had criticized his performance from last month. Indeed, he had the worst contract last month, but normally that's not the case. It was just a coincidence this time. I was told that my performance was not good enough and that I need to work harder to achieve results. It was just bad luck that the deals I was working on last month were delayed and only came through this month. It's simply coincidental that the numbers didn't show up in last month's report. What's with that attitude? As soon as she arrived, I found myself in the break room just to make coffee for her, and I really felt like complaining. I consider myself a grown adult, so I didn't say anything, but I really wanted to shout, "What the hell is this? This branch manager?" From then on, every morning, as soon as she started reading the newspaper, she would order me to bring her coffee. Then, the day before the assistant manager was due back from his trip, Elizabeth came over to me again while I was working. "Nancy, can I have a word?" "Yes, what is it? What exactly is your job here?" she'd asked me abruptly. I was puzzled but answered, "Currently, I mainly assist with the counter tasks of everyone." "Is that all?" "Well, no. I also clean inside the bank and check the parking lot. So you're not really doing any significant work, are you?" I was taken aback. "Well, maybe that's true. You see, I've decided to introduce cleaning robots in the bank. That means your job will be redundant, won't it?" she said with an insinuating tone. What exactly do you mean by that?" Elizabeth put pressure on me. "Supporting counter operations, which even a single employee can handle, right? You're just there to help them. That seems like a waste of payroll to me. So are you saying I should resign?" "Yes, there's no need to keep someone who can't do productive work, right?" I just looked at Elizabeth in silence. She looked down on me. "Don't you think the company needs young, promising talent? It's better to get rid of unproductive, salary-stealing old-timers early on." Elizabeth's exaggerated smile then leaned in close to me and whispered in a small voice, "Useless old-timers like you are fired today. We don't need you. Haha." After hearing this, I realized I had no reason to continue working here. "I got it. If you're firing me, I'll accept it." We both agreed that Elizabeth would dismiss me. "I have a lot of unused vacation days. How long should I keep coming in?" "Oh, is that so? Well, you don't need to come in tomorrow." "I got it. It's been a short time since we met, but thank you for everything," I replied, then quickly started packing up for my departure. Elizabeth seemed pleased with my resignation and briskly returned to her desk. While I felt the pang of regret for being outmaneuvered into resigning, there was also a sense of liberation. And if she thinks I'm incompetent, she's probably mistaken. Imagining what might happen next, I couldn't help but smirk. "Nancy Smith is here to see you," a colleague at the reception called out to me. Having worked in customer service for over 30 years, I've naturally built close relationships with many clients. Smith, in particular, had been trusting me in using our bank for over 20 years. "Thank you, I'll be right there." This would be my last day to serve such clients. I wished I had more time to properly say goodbye. It was a great regret. Determined to serve my last client with all my heart, I headed to Smith's waiting seat. After finishing my duties for the last time, I bid farewell to my colleagues in the locker room. They were shocked by my sudden resignation and openly expressed their anger towards the manager. How much we rely on Nancy. That woman has no idea. Who are we going to turn to in difficult times now? Exactly, it's not just us. Many long-time customers depend on Nancy too, they said, their faces almost tearful. I'm concerned about the customers too. It's unfortunate that I have to leave without saying goodbye. But if anyone asks for me, please explain it to them. Of course, we got it. Thank you. I'm sorry for the suddenness. If you ever need help, feel free to call me, I said, bidding farewell to the bank where I had worked for so many years. The next day, during lunchtime, I received a message on social media from one of the young bank clerks. While sipping tea at home, I read, "Smith came in this morning and canceled all his deposits. He said if Nancy isn't here, there's no reason to keep his money with us." Smith, the only customer I had the chance to say goodbye to when I told him about my resignation yesterday, seemed deeply disappointed, which probably led to his decision. I felt terribly sorry, but it was out of my hands now. In my heart, I thanked Smith for trusting me so much and for his gesture. By the way, Smith is the president of a very famous local trading company and was one of my biggest clients. I remember hearing his total assets were nearly $1 billion. The amount he had deposited with us was about $700 million. With such a large withdrawal, our branch must have suffered a significant blow. "What? What do you mean?" a customer who was with Nancy said. "If Nancy is no longer here, There's no point in keeping their account with our bank. So they canceled everything. What? Really? Elizabeth was reportedly so surprised that she was speechless. I wish I could have seen her reaction with my own eyes. A week has passed since I left my job. During this time, I received several calls from my former colleagues informing me that many customers, just like Smith, were canceling their accounts upon learning of my departure. The staff knew that I hadn't left on my own accord but was forced out, so they were unable to persuade these customers to stay. Furthermore, the news of my departure spread from customer to customer, leading to dozens of inquiries each day at the branch. Following these inquiries, customers would come the next day to close their accounts. Elizabeth was reportedly pale with fear as the cancellations continued day after day. If this trend persisted, the survival of the branch itself was in jeopardy. She was living in fear, wondering when the next account cancellation would occur. Then I heard that an investigation had been launched by the headquarters. In just over a week since my departure, the total amount of canceled accounts had exceeded $2 billion. The assistant manager was confronting Elizabeth daily, filled with anger and panic. Why did you arbitrarily decide to fire Nancy? With Nancy's experience, it's obvious she had long-standing relationships with our clients. How are you going to handle this situation? Then Michael, the division manager from the headquarters, came for the investigation. It's been a while, Branch Manager Anderson. You seem to be having a tough time since your assignment. What happened? Michael, the division manager, welcomed Elizabeth, who was completely taken aback. Welcome, she greeted him in a flustered voice. The employees were apparently struggling to hold back their laughter. I heard you recently let go of Nancy, who had been working here for many years. Were you unaware of her reputation? Nancy was highly regarded even at the headquarters. Elizabeth was visibly shocked to learn about Nancy's reputation and seemed amazed. But she seemed so unassuming, she said. Appearances don't matter, Michael replied. Nancy was diligent and attentive, managing many long-term clients. Nancy was trusted so much by the clients that they felt comfortable only with her. Didn't you know she was repeatedly recognized in company-wide meetings? What did you say? Elizabeth asked. During this exchange, Michael spoke up calmly. Elizabeth, this situation is a result of your unilateral decision. You must be prepared to take responsibility. How could you not know that Nancy was just doing relaxed cleaning and occasionally helping others? Why didn't you inform me? Elizabeth tried to defend herself in panic, but the assistant manager retorted, Don't blame me. Judging Nancy as incompetent based on just a few days of observation is absurd. Plus, you fired her while I was away on business. If you had consulted me, I would have never allowed you to fire her. Elizabeth was left speechless and trembling. Michael continued, We will have a board meeting to discuss this matter. Also, we have reviewed your work history. You have increased contract numbers through forceful methods. There have been numerous complaints from both staff and customers at your previous branches, and all of them were related to your clients. Elizabeth looked at Michael with a tearful face, perturbed. He went on, Our bank's motto is sincerity to customers. Your approach would never earn their trust, and your failure to recognize a hardworking employee like Nancy shows you lack the ability to lead. Regardless of the outcome, Elizabeth, I don't see a bright future for you in this bank. After saying this, Michael left for the headquarters. Elizabeth collapsed on the spot, stunned and unable to move for a while, as reported by a colleague who witnessed the scene. During my time as a teller, I had actually been personally requested by many clients, including executives, CEOs, chairpersons, private investors, and owners of private businesses, mostly for substantial transactions. The amounts they deposited ranged from tens to hundreds of millions. Not knowing this and firing me unilaterally meant losing the trust of these clients who have faith in me, leading them to surely transfer their accounts elsewhere. It was something that could have easily been foreseen, yet all because Elizabeth rashly deemed me incompetent. Following this, Elizabeth was relieved of her position as branch manager and sent to work in a remote branch doing the same teller work she had looked down upon. However, her attitude and mannerisms continued to alienate both staff and customers, leaving her counter mostly empty. There's even talk of her being moved to a contractual position. If she'd had changed her attitude after being transferred, things might have turned out differently, but it seems her pride didn't allow it. I deeply pity her for that. Later, Michael and the assistant manager visited my home to personally apologize. We are truly sorry for what happened to a model employee like you, Nancy. Elizabeth's rudeness will be apologized for by me on her behalf. Nancy, would you consider coming back to work at our bank? Nancy, I'm also asking you. Please, I'm truly sorry for the unpleasant experience you had. It was my oversight, but our branch really needs you. Please come back. Both of them bowed deeply, pleading repeatedly for me to return to work. Their desperate demeanor led me to ask for some time to think it over. That night, after discussing it with Bob, he said, if they went to that length to ask you and if you think it's right, then maybe you should go back. Given that the root cause, Elizabeth, was going to be dealt with, and they were so earnest in wanting me back, I saw no reason to refuse. The next day, I contacted the assistant manager and successfully returned to work. Upon my return, I reached out to the customers who had canceled their accounts, and fortunately, most of them came back. The assistant manager was overjoyed that both the customers and I had returned. It was a rare sight to see a grown man cry and bow in gratitude, something you wouldn't see anywhere else. I heard that our branch was at risk of being absorbed, but this issue was resolved thanks to the return of the customers. With Elizabeth transferred, the assistant manager was promoted to branch manager. He might be a bit timid, but I think he's a good boss. He pays attention to those around him. Since he relies on me, I have to work hard to meet his expectations. This incident has made us both realize how important mutual trust is, and today I am working to my best at the bank, supporting my colleagues and each other. I gripped it firmly in my hand. I was torn whether I should really go ahead with it. My eyes turned to the woman in front of me. Her cheeks were blushing and her eyes glistened as she looked at me. Seeing her up close was breathtaking. She was so beautiful. I'm sure she must have steeled herself to be here. If that's the case, I'd like to respond to her wishes too because I felt the same way as she did. So I pushed it in all the way. I'll never forget her joy in that moment for as long as I live. What I'm about to tell you is about a fateful reunion with a woman who used to hate me. I'm James Peterson, a 32-year-old gynecologist working in a hospital. Although I am now steadily gaining experience as a doctor and working well, I actually went a long way to become a doctor. I had 2 failed attempts before I got into med school, or rather, I didn't take the exam for 2 years. I was in a top-performing class in high school and within the range of getting into a medical school. But on the day of the preliminary exam, my chronically ill mother collapsed. The exam became the least of my concerns, and I didn't go to the exam center. I spent 2 years supporting my mother, who was on the brink of life and death. It might have been a detour, but there's nothing more important than life, so I have no regrets. Sadly, my mother passed away, but I'm glad that I could be there for her. I always dreamed of becoming a doctor, and through my mother's battle with illness, my desire became even stronger. So 2 years later than my peers, I entered medical school. Now, working as a doctor, a woman transferred to my hospital, the beautiful classmate from high school who used to hate me. Amanda became my patient. Well, it would be more accurate to say that she was always competing with me rather than hating me. Amanda and I went to the same preparatory school. We were always competing for top grades, and she treated me as her rival on her own accord. I didn't particularly feel that she was a rival, but it is true that competing with her motivated me to study harder. Maybe because she saw me as a rival, she was always tough on me. She often told me, "I will not lose to you." But I admired her competitiveness, which was a stark contrast to my laid-back personality, and I thought it was cool. In high school, I hadn't told anyone except my homeroom teacher why I gave up on the exam. Of course, I didn't tell Amanda either. I couldn't take the exam because my mother was critically ill. It was serious, and I was scared. I was afraid to say it out loud. I didn't want to say my mother was in critical condition. If I said it, the scene of my mother collapsing in front of me would come to my mind. I couldn't bear the sympathetic looks from everyone. But Amanda, not knowing the reason, seemed to think that I had run away from the exam. "You didn't have the confidence, and you ran away, not even going to the exam site. You're such a coward," she insulted me like that, and wouldn't talk to me from then on. She got accepted into a prestigious university. It was the university she had always claimed she would get into since our freshman year of high school. She was honest with her feelings and straightforward. She was hard on herself and others, but she never shied away from making the effort that matched. To me, she seemed dazzling. Who would have thought that Amanda would become my patient? I wonder how she will react. The reunion was a mix of happiness and a bit of fear. I met Amanda when I was shopping at a convenience store before work. She didn't know I was her attending doctor yet because I hadn't greeted her as such. Also, maybe because I was in my casual clothes. She glared at me the moment she saw me and slightly laughed. "You're a high school grad and sick, such a loser in life, huh?" It seems that because of my cancellation of the high school exam, I was a loser in her eyes. I'm your doctor." "What? What are you talking about?" I showed her my name tag, which stated my title as a doctor. To the bewildered her, she was staring at it in a daze. After revealing at the store that I was her doctor, Amanda left the place without saying a word. I went to her room to greet her later, but she didn't say anything. Perhaps she was still angry. She had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer at another hospital and was transferred to my hospital for surgery. The hospital where I work has a good reputation for gynecology and attracts patients from other hospitals for surgery. After examining her condition at this hospital, it seems likely that one of her ovaries will need to be removed. The extent of the progression and the treatment plan after the surgery would be determined. But then Amanda started saying something completely unexpected. "I'm not going to have surgery." "Excuse me, what did you say?" "Listen carefully, you dummy. I said I'm not having surgery. If you got it, just leave me alone." I explained the importance of the surgery, but she wouldn't listen. I wondered if she didn't like me, so I had other doctors and nurses talk to her about the surgery. But no matter who talked to her, Amanda refused the surgery, and she wouldn't give any reasons. I wanted to respect the patient's wishes, but I wanted her to make a choice that values her life more than anything. I was concerned that she wouldn't give me a reason. One day, as I was troubled with how to deal with Amanda, I passed by her room and heard arguing voices from inside. "So it's going to be an ovarian removal. We have to call off the engagement." I saw for the first time someone who had come to visit Amanda. He was raising his voice, sounding irritated at the patient. "One of my ovaries will still be left. There won't be any problem." "You don't know that for sure. What about the chance of getting pregnant? It's going to be lower than normal, right? Can you even have children? If you can't, there is no point in us getting married. Please don't say things like that. I'm not going to have the surgery. If I don't, both of my ovaries will remain." A derisive laugh from the man echoed through the hospital room. "So there won't be a complete cure for the cancer, right? And my wife will be a cancer patient." "In the first place, that's out of the question. There is only one thing I want for my wife, to bear children that will carry on my superior genes. I heard ovarian cancer can be hereditary. It would be a disaster if our child inherits it." The sound of Amanda's sobbing could be heard. "If you're worried, let's get tested to see if it could be passed on. Just the fact that you have cancer is a huge turnoff. Don't drag me into your illness. You can handle it alone. Damn, I thought I'd found a woman with both brains and beauty. You're just defective." I couldn't tolerate a man who didn't even know what the disease was and assumed it was inherited on his own. And the part where he scorned her as defective. What matters now shouldn't be whether his genes survive to the next generation. Isn't her life the most important thing? Even if she wanted children, it is women who bear children. Women risk their lives to give birth. I just couldn't accept that a man who disrespects women was ignoring her like this. "Don't you love me anymore? Please don't abandon me." In high school, she was dazzling as she worked towards her goals. I admired her. I was angry at the fact that she was crying and hanging on to such a scumbag. Unable to stand it any longer, I entered the hospital room. "Nice to meet you. I'm Dr. Peterson, her primary physician." My sudden entrance seemed to surprise them. "I could hear you all the way from outside. You're not family, are you? If you're not, you should leave." My sharp words clearly irritated the man. "It's quite disrespectful of you. I've taken time out of my schedule for this woman. Even more reason for you to leave. Her valuable time is being wasted talking to you. If you're not idle, you should be on your way." The man clicked his tongue, shooting Amanda a glare. "Is it okay if I leave? If I leave, it's really over between us, okay?" His tone seemed to contain a mocking laugh as if he was making a fool out of Amanda, watching her cling and cry. He seemed to find amusement. Amanda cried more. Her moist eyes alternated between the man and me. The usually strong-willed Amanda was nowhere to be seen. That frustrated me. Do you need to cling to this kind of man? The Amanda I know wasn't someone who compromised on herself. I heard you studied a lot and got a job at a good company. You worked just as hard in college, didn't you? You're an amazing person. Marriage is supposed to be a lifelong decision, right? You don't deserve someone who neglects your life and talks about your genes and defects. The man shouted things like, "You and you're mocking me," as he listened to my words. Amanda was quietly watching me. Perhaps her words sounded younger than the Amanda I knew. At this moment, Amanda seemed like a lost child. Maybe she was doubting her path due to the harsh words from the guy. Yeah, he's unsuitable. There should be someone else who will appreciate and cherish a hard worker like you. So don't lower yourself to the level of a scumbag like him. Upon hearing my words, Amanda closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, there were no signs of tears. Her eyes now regained their shine as she stared down at the man. We're done. Leave now. Oh, you sure you want to talk to me like that? I might forgive you if you apologize now. The man's earlier bravado was gone, and it was obvious that he was bluffing. He'd initiated the cruel conversation, but now he was unsettled by her desire to break up. I've had enough. We're finished. I'm glad I found out how small-minded you are before our marriage. What was I thinking? How did I not notice until now? I can't stand people who look down on the sick or who see women as mere tools for childbirth. I'm baffled as to what I ever saw in you. Leave right now. The man was speechless, having been chastised by the woman he once looked down upon. I opened the door to the hospital room, gesturing outward with my hand. Then, with a smile, I said, "Please never come back." The man looked frustrated and fled. Back with just the two of us in the hospital room, I asked for her permission and took a seat by the bed. Sorry for eavesdropping and barging in, but that guy, he's an absolute jerk. I couldn't stand it. Eavesdropping isn't a good hobby, but I'll forgive you. He used to have his gentle moments, but he showed his true colors when I felt ill. Yet I was already in love with him, shamefully clinging to him. I wonder if my illness weakened me. Did you refuse surgery for his sake? She nodded slightly. It seemed she thought that if she didn't have her ovaries removed, he would stay by her side. But doing so wouldn't cure her illness. Maybe her mind was also weakened by the illness to the point where she didn't understand that. She laughed self-deprecatingly. Oh, you've seen an embarrassing sight of me. I feel completely exposed. She seemed a bit embarrassed, but it might not be fair that she was the only one whose secret was known. I've also hidden something. Can I share it with you? I felt the need to reveal why I didn't take the college entrance exams. I told her about how my mother felt ill, how critical her condition was, and that I had to postpone my exams for 2 years to take care of her. Once I finished, she hit me gently with her pillow. Why didn't you tell me that? At such a tough time, I accused you of running away, didn't I? That's awful. I didn't want to worry you, so I couldn't say it. I thought getting pity would be painful too. Saying this, she hit me again with her pillow. It didn't hurt at all, but each hit made a comical sound. Why should I be considerate of you, my rival? Why wouldn't I worry about you? I told you to keep up with me, didn't I? I'll go to college first and work hard so you can't catch up. But I still want you to chase me. At her typical words, I couldn't help but laugh. So she wouldn't pity me, huh? It seemed that I had misunderstood her. From there, we were engrossed in stories from our student days. She, who had been crying in front of her boyfriend until just now, was regaining her energy, occasionally showing anger or laughter. This is the way she should be. Her clinging to such a terrible guy is just not like her. So, what will you do about the surgery? She looked at me blankly before laughing defiantly. Of course, I'm going to do it. I'll get well quickly and work hard again. I worked hard to get into this company. I'm still going to rise to the top. Her competitive spirit came out in her face, just like her dazzling student days. She's still shining now. The surgery was a success, and the pathology report indicated the cancer could be completely removed with low malignancy and low risk of metastasis. At her request, genetic testing was done, which showed no genetic risk for cancer. Both she and I were relieved. During her hospitalization, We talked every day, and the distance between us seemed to have closed. I enjoyed the time I spent talking to her outside my working hours. Bring me a drink in the afternoon. I'd like something sweet tomorrow. She started making demands, and I found her making these small promises adorable. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who found our talks enjoyable. On the day of her discharge, I had prepared flowers for her. As we were leaving the hospital, I handed her the bouquet. Congratulations on your discharge. She looked at the bouquet, then turned her face away with a pout. Can't you see my hands are full? I can't carry any more. Interpreting her response as a refusal to accept, I felt a bit disheartened. Because I can't carry it, bring it to my house. Ha! I was still processing what Amanda had just said and stared at her blankly. What did you just say? That's what I said. Since I can't carry it, you bring the flowers to my house. Well, Amanda, I don't know where your house is. She then placed a piece of paper with something written on it in my pocket. I reached into my pocket and felt the paper. What's written here? I asked. My contact and address. You need to bring flowers. Call me after work. It seemed that Amanda was willing to see me outside the hospital. I clenched the piece of paper in my hand. I was hesitant about whether I could really keep this in my pocket just like this. While thinking about what to do, I looked at Amanda, who was standing in front of me. She was there, her cheeks turning red, her eyes moist as she looked at me. Surely she had made up her mind to be here with me. If that's the case, I'd like to respond to her wishes too. After all, I feel the same way about her. That's why I firmly pushed the paper into the depth of my pocket. Even if you've asked for this back, I won't return it. Hearing my words, she seemed to relax. Perhaps she had been tense as well. I'll probably never forget the joy on her face at that moment for the rest of my life. When I returned to the office and looked at the note, it was written, "Absolutely, you contact me," along with her contact information. I smiled at her characteristic way of making a request. In the evening of that day, after finishing my work, I quickly contacted her and rushed to her house to deliver the bouquet. I hadn't run like that in years. Now, 2 years later, I live with my wife Amanda. We do fight a lot, but my wife, who still looks pretty and cute when she's mad, makes me happy. All in all, I want to continue cherishing my wife with both sweet and cool faces, who never fails to pack me lunch filled with love.
The woman who stepped out of the luxury car drew everyone's attention as she walked straight towards me. She then said, "I've come to pick you up in your car," and stood close to me, which caused a big stir around us. Joseph's mouth was agape. "Ah, who is that woman?" It wasn't me who answered Joseph's question, but the stunning, model-like beauty Jessica. "My name is Stephen, and I'm 30 years old. I work at a design and engineering company. Today is our high school reunion. It's the first time we've ever had one, but out of nowhere, an invitation had arrived. The sender was Joseph. We met in our first year of high school and pushed each other to aim for a prestigious university. We spent our afternoons studying in the library or study rooms, half studying and half chatting. Joseph and I especially loved cars and often debated about our dream cars. However, we went separate ways in our second year of high school. My father suddenly passed away due to illness. Although I could have tried to apply for university with scholarships, I decided to start working to support my struggling mother. So I got permission from the school to get a part-time job. The part-time job was at the design and engineering company where I now work, and I found the work there very interesting. During high school, they only let me do simple tasks like tracing someone else's designs or doing basic measurements. Eager to become fully competent, I decided to join the company full-time right after high school instead of going to college. When I told Joseph about this, he was upset. He said we had promised to apply for the university together, but my situation had changed drastically. Since then, I haven't been in touch with Joseph at all. I know he successfully got into the prestigious university we aimed for. It's been 12 years since then. I was genuinely curious about how he's been, so I decided to attend the reunion since the invitation was from Joseph. It seemed he was the organizer. I arrived early at the venue and looked for Joseph. I found him right away. Even in high school, he was tall, well-built, and handsome with sharp features. Today, he was wearing an expensive-looking suit, looking even more impressive. As I approached Joseph, he noticed me. "Hey, it's Stephen, isn't it?" He walked towards me with wide eyes. "Joseph, long time no see. How have you been?" I greeted him as I handed over the participation fee, and he nodded with a smile. "I've been well, but really busy. The company I joined after graduating is extremely demanding. But how should I put it? I feel like I'm really contributing to the country, and it's very fulfilling." Contributing to the country? That's quite grand. He works for a famous company that everyone knows. That's impressive. Graduating from such a prestigious university and working at a top company. When I said that, Joseph puffed out his chest a little. "Yeah, I'm doing my best. You are a high school graduate, right? I heard your dad passed away suddenly. That's tough, such a waste of your talent." I smiled wryly. "I'm doing my best at my current company too, but I'm sure my efforts seem small compared to Joseph's." I didn't say much and changed the subject. "By the way, we used to talk a lot about cars back in the day. You always wanted a foreign car." When I mentioned this, Joseph's face lit up. "Oh, you have to hear this. I finally got my dream car." It was the European car brand that Joseph had always admired the most. Excitedly, he pulled out his phone and showed me a picture. "Look at this. The luxury and dignity of this style. Isn't it amazing? You can't help but fall in love with it." I nodded as I looked at the phone. I prefer domestic cars, but the overwhelming presence of foreign cars is undeniably impressive. But you know, the maintenance costs are really high. I don't feel comfortable taking it to just any shop for inspections, so I end up going to the manufacturer, which is expensive, and repairs with foreign cars. Sometimes the parts are discontinued, so getting original parts can be tough. It seemed like he had hit his stride. Maybe the challenges of maintaining it are part of the appeal. Just then, my phone rang. It was Jessica. "It's someone from work, so I need to take this," I said to Joseph and answered the call. "Someone from work? Hey, it's your day off, right? Are you working for a sweatshop or something?" he teased. "Hello." I ignored Joseph and took the call, but Jessica was silent. "Hello, can you hear me? What's up?" Puzzled by the lack of response, I spoke again. In the background, more classmates had arrived, and Joseph continued bragging about his car. "Are you enjoying the reunion?" Jessica finally broke the silence. "Well, to be honest, not really," I admitted. I had come to talk to Joseph, but after just a bit of conversation, I was already exhausted. He probably didn't mean any harm, but all he talked about were his achievements. I'm sure he worked incredibly hard to get into that prestigious university, and his current job at a major company is demanding. His salary is probably high, and he owns a car that everyone dreams of. For a moment, I silently watched Joseph, who had changed a bit. Then Jessica said, "All right, I'll come pick you up," and hung up. "What?" I stared at my phone in disbelief. Why did Jessica call me in the first place? While I was puzzled, Joseph spoke to me again. "Sorry, I've been talking about myself. What car are you driving now?" I replied that I drive a domestic car. Joseph continued, compact cars have low maintenance costs, right? What kind are you driving? Show me. I think sporty-looking wagon types are nice, even if they're just compact cars." Joseph, what's happened to you?" I furrowed my brows and looked at him, making him uneasy. "Sure, your car is cool, but every car has its own appeal. I prefer domestically made cars." When I said that, Joseph scratched his head awkwardly. "Sorry, I was actually really looking forward to seeing you, Stephen. Seeing you brought back all those high school memories. I felt betrayed when you didn't go to T University with me, even though I understand why. I thought if you had come with me, you could have had a car like this too. I sighed. I'm sorry too. Maybe if I had explained things better back then, you wouldn't have felt that way. I found the work at the company where I had my part-time job really interesting and wanted to learn through practice instead of just studying. As I trailed off, a high-end domestic car pulled up outside the venue. That alone caused a bit of a stir, but when everyone saw the woman stepping out of the driver's seat, they were stunned. With a small face, thin lips, a sharp high nose, and almond-shaped double eyelids, her slightly brown wavy hair, her well-proportioned figure, and long slender legs peeking out from her skirt, the woman who stepped out of the luxury car drew everyone's attention. She walked straight towards me and said, "I've come to pick you up," causing a huge commotion around us. Joseph's mouth was agape. Who is that woman? It wasn't me who answered Joseph's question but the stunning model-like beauty. Jessica. My name is Jessica. I'm Stephen's assistant, she said, making a graceful bow. I held my head in my hands. Jessica took my hand and, insisting, "Let's go," tried to lead me back the way she came. "Jessica, sorry, I just started to enjoy myself," I said, stopping her. Jessica widened her eyes. "Just had a misunderstanding with an old friend. We just made up, so sorry," I explained. Jessica smiled warmly. "It's fine if you're having fun. Can I hang around and wait?" If I wasn't enjoying myself, it would be rude to keep her waiting after she came to pick me up. I was about to suggest she head back when Joseph stepped forward. "If you'd like, your assistant can join us." Jessica's face lit up. Really? Her smile was dazzling, nearly knocking everyone out. "It's a buffet, so if you pay the fee," Joseph said, glancing at me with a grin. I silently took out my wallet and paid for Jessica. "You are not really my assistant, and that car is a company car," I said as I handed over the fee. Jessica pouted. "Hey, I was trying to make you look good." I chuckled. Jessica continued, "Why not? You're going to be the next president. When you become president, I'll be your assistant, and you'll use that car." The room buzzed at her words. People started asking about my current situation, so I reluctantly explained that I had been working hard at the company where I had my high school part-time job, eventually being considered for the next president role. Jessica looked at me with a sly smile, but I tried not to involve her too much in my story. Joseph then said, "I see you are working hard too, Stephen. Sorry again for everything." "No worries. I wanted to tell you everything back then. After we fell out in high school, I was a bit stubborn perhaps. Can we hang out more often?" Joseph nodded with a smile. As the reunion ended, I went for a drive with Jessica. Behind the wheel, she focused straight ahead, concentrating on driving. Watching her profile, I recalled how we met. I met Jessica in my second year of high school. It was a few months after I started my part-time job at the company during the summer. During the summer vacation, a fourth-grade girl began coming to the office. It was Jessica, the daughter of Mr. Brown, the company president. Back then, the company was very small and family-like, and employees' children would often come by on days off. Jessica was there almost every day. She seemed to enjoy watching the adults work. She took a particular liking to me and would watch me work closely, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. A 10-year-old girl hanging around didn't seem like anything romantic, but Jessica was quite a mature girl. She would straightforwardly say, "I want to marry you in the future." When I brushed it off, she would get angry, saying, "I'm serious." The employees teased me, saying, "You'll marry the president's daughter and become the next president," which made a high school kid like me feel a bit awkward. However, when I graduated from high school and officially joined the company as a full-time employee, things changed. I convinced Mr. Brown, the president, to implement 3D CAD. I taught myself 3D modeling and incorporated it into our design and engineering projects, which increased our clients. As the company grew, it became harder for children to come and go, and I stopped seeing Jessica. Around that time, self-study was incredibly challenging, but I enjoyed every bit of it. I loved that kind of learning. My desire to go to college, which I had once given up, rekindled. Of course, I kept that desire in check because I was already working, but I wondered if I could at least take some classes to learn about the areas where self-study had its limits. Going to college now seemed impractical. Still, I wanted to attend university one day. Amidst this internal struggle, Mr. Brown approached me. "Stephen, have you considered going to college?" I was stunned when Mr. Brown, the president, said, "Thanks to your hard work, the company has grown significantly. I know you've been looking into universities because you want to study more. How about taking a leave of absence and attending college for 4 years? I want to support your aspirations," he said with a warm smile. I was moved to tears. I asked for some time to think it over. It was an incredibly generous offer, but I didn't want to leave the company short-handed for 4 years. After doing some research, I found a night school at a university. Fortunately, there was a night school within commuting distance that had the program I wanted to study. When I consulted with Mr. Brown, he laughed at my modesty. So, I enrolled in night school and studied to my heart's content. During this time, the company accommodated my schedule by adjusting overtime and weekend work, which was a huge help. I was determined to repay this kindness and continue to work hard. After graduating from university, I actively incorporated the new skills I had learned into my work. These new skills were particularly effective in large projects, allowing us to offer proposals from various angles, even in urban development. So, as it turns out, I'm not just a high school graduate, as Joseph mentioned. I forgot to explain this to Joseph, but I'm sure we'll have another chance to meet one day. While I was busy applying my learned skills and helping the employees acquire them, Mr. Brown invited me to dinner. Mr. Brown had treated me like his own son since high school, and we often had meals together discussing various topics. Each time, I thought it was just another usual dinner that day, but when I arrived at the restaurant, there was someone else at the table besides Mr. Brown. It was Jessica, all grown up. Seeing me, she blushed and looked down. She had transformed from an assertive elementary school girl into a composed and stunningly beautiful young woman, and I hesitated to approach her. When I cautiously approached the table, Mr. Brown gestured for me to sit. I still vividly remember nodding nervously when he asked if I remembered his daughter. When I nodded, Jessica's face lit up like a blooming flower. Despite the initial tension, the dinner progressed pleasantly. Mr. Brown kept glancing at Jessica, and each time she would look down until finally, "Dad," she said hesitantly with a knowing smile. Mr. Brown excused himself to the restroom, leaving us alone. The tension between us increased. "I've wanted to see you for so long." Hearing those words from the now beautiful Jessica made my heart leap. "Do you remember when I was in elementary school? I asked you to marry me?" She looked up at me with a flushed face and pleading eyes. I nodded awkwardly like a robot. Jessica took a deep breath and said the words she had prepared. "I've loved you even when we couldn't see each other. Will you date me with marriage in mind?" The words, spoken rapidly as if exhaling a long-held breath, pierced my heart. I met Jessica when she was still in elementary school, during my sensitive middle and high school years. While others were developing crushes on classmates or teachers, she had carefully nurtured the feelings she had since she was 10. I was deeply moved by that. She had kept her desire to see me suppressed all these years. She had heard about my hard work at the company and decided not to interfere. She had promised her father, Mr. Brown, to focus on her studies until she graduated from university. She worked hard to improve herself, worrying that I might marry someone else in the meantime. Once she was close to graduating and had a job offer from her father's company, she finally arranged to meet me today. Hearing this, I couldn't dismiss her feelings. When Mr. Brown returned from the restroom and said, "I'd feel at ease if it were you, Stephen," with a warm smile, I made up my mind. Definitely, I'd love to date you, Jessica, whose long-held feelings had finally been acknowledged, blushed deeply and shed tears. I knew I had to honor her sincere feelings. I made up my mind to do just that. As we drove, reminiscing about the past, these memories became precious parts of my life. I wondered if I was good enough to deserve Jessica's genuine feelings. Looking at her profile, I said, "Can we take a break?" indicating the parking lot of a nearby park. "Of course," she replied, and the car slowly pulled into the parking lot. It was a fairly large park with a central area full of large playground equipment and a walking path around it. At the end of the path was a small hill with a gazebo. Jessica and I began walking toward the gazebo. "The stars, they're beautiful," she said, looking up. I saw a sky full of stars. Maybe it was because we were in a place with few streetlights or because of the clear winter air, but there seemed to be more stars than usual. "Yeah, they're beautiful," I responded, and Jessica chuckled. Her face seemed to shine more than usual. "I love you, Jessica." As I looked at Jessica's profile, I couldn't help but murmur those words. Jessica blushed deeply. "What, all of a sudden? I'm happy though." I laughed softly. "Well, I was just reminiscing, and I wondered if I was good enough to deserve your sincere feelings. It made me realize I hadn't expressed even half of what I feel. I'm not very good at romance. After graduating high school, I worked tirelessly while attending night school. Time flew by like a storm. During that time, I had no romantic interests and was entirely focused on work. Once I start working, I get completely absorbed. I'm probably the most boring guy ever. Could someone like Jessica, who is 7 years younger than me, really be satisfied with a guy like me? A dull man like me with a beautiful woman who attracts everyone's attention. I don't think we match. Still, I don't want to let Jessica go. I'm afraid you'll realize someday that there are better guys out there." Jessica's face lit up. "No way, Stephen. You really thought that?" She looked incredibly happy for some reason. I had just confessed my insecurities, feeling completely pathetic. "What are you worried about? I have only ever loved you since I was 10. Jessica looked at me as if waiting desperately for my response. "Well, that's just it. There are so many great guys out there, but you only see me. I'm really happy. But for example, Joseph, the guy I talked about today, he's smart, works at a big company, drives a foreign car, is tall and good-looking. He's better than me in every way. Someone as beautiful, kind, and cheerful as you would be a great match for a guy like him." I knew I was being self-deprecating. I thought Jessica might be disappointed, but she widened her eyes in surprise. "Wow, Stephen, you really have low self-esteem. I didn't know that," she said. I tilted my head in confusion. "Well then, let me tell you how exceptional and wonderful you are," Jessica said with a chuckle, raising her index finger. "First of all, you're incredibly hardworking. The reason our company has grown so much is entirely thanks to you. My father talks about it all the time." Her words made me feel a bit embarrassed. "Secondly, you're really smart. You could have gone to the university if you had wanted to." I tried to be modest, but my mock exam results in my first year of high school did show I was within reach. Jessica continued to list my good qualities until I blushed and told her to stop. "Stop. That's enough," I said, my face turning red. Honestly, I was thrilled. It felt great to know Jessica saw me in such a positive light. Jessica looked dissatisfied but said, "Okay, then just one more thing." She gazed at me intently. The reason I fell in love with you was seeing your serious expression as you expertly controlled the mouse and keyboard to create designs on the computer. It looked like magic, and I fell for you. I was a bit surprised to learn that young Jessica was drawn to such a seemingly mundane aspect of me. If Joseph is like a foreign car, then you're like a domestic car, she continued. I was puzzled by this analogy. You're gentle and kind, which makes you more wonderful than someone flashy like Joseph. At that moment, I decided there was no time like the present. I took out the box I always carry in my pocket. Jessica looked surprised. Thank you for understanding me better than I do myself. Jessica, you're beautiful, you work hard to stay fit, and you're kind and strong inside. To me, you're the perfect woman. Jessica listened without moving. Honestly, I sometimes feel like I'm not worthy enough for you, but I don't want to lose you to anyone else. I want to be by your side forever. Will you marry me? When our relationship started, it was Jessica who took the courage to confess her feelings. She had loved me for years. I always knew I wanted to propose to her myself. How long had I been carrying this ring? It was just an ordinary day when I was wandering around the city alone. The moment I realized I wanted to marry Jessica, my feet unconsciously led me into a jewelry store. As I looked at the sparkling rings, I found one that would look perfect on Jessica, and bought it. I carried that ring with me everywhere so that I could propose at any moment. It's embarrassing, isn't it? I have always wanted to marry you, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. Eventually, I started feeling insecure, thinking there might be better men out there for you. I'm glad that I finally decided to propose before anyone else could take you away, I said, holding out the box with the ring. I was anxious that she might not take it. But really, are you sure I'm good enough? She asked, making me almost stumble. What? Now you're the one who's worried. Why? I asked, flustered. Jessica looked down. Because my confession, I asked my father for help. I understood what she was trying to say. It has nothing to do with Mr. Brown. I genuinely love you. This was something I could say with absolute confidence. Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes. Then she gently took the small box from my hand. Jessica slowly opened the small box and upon seeing its contents murmured, "Wow, it's beautiful." It's not just about the price, but I splurged quite a bit to honor Jessica's long-held feelings. I couldn't imagine any ring other than this one, which perfectly matched Jessica's image. She gazed at the ring intently and slowly took it out. And then here. She handed the ring to me. I took it and placed it on her finger. She held up her left hand with the ring now glittering on her ring finger against the starry sky. I'm so happy. It's so beautiful, even more beautiful than this starry sky. In that moment, she looked more beautiful than ever. Just as foreign cars and domestic cars each have their own unique appeal, I realized I had qualities I hadn't acknowledged. Jessica had discovered those qualities in me. Although Jessica is undeniably a beautiful and charming woman, I believe I know her inner beauty better than anyone. I hope to cherish what I have now and continue to improve in areas where I am lacking. I want to further enrich my work life and eventually acquire the car I've always dreamed of. Most importantly, I want to live happily with Jessica. I have many dreams and sometimes I worry if I can achieve them all, but with Jessica by my side, I believe we can achieve any dream. Eventually, looking up at the star-filled sky, Jessica and I gently held hands. If a company can't even help people, I'll quit on my own accord. Fire me. I am care. I know I have a tendency to get too heated. I'm aware of it, truly. But the words from the CEO in front of me were absolutely unacceptable. My name is Dylan. I work in sales for a security firm. I always wanted to be a police officer and even took up boxing because of it. However, due to certain reasons, I had to give up on the dream. But now, I'm satisfied because I can work in security, protecting people. However, I must admit I've never gotten used to the daily packs of ways. Being a big guy, I'm always concerned about getting in people's way. Even today, I tried to make myself smaller, taking up as little space as possible on the train. Today, I was heading to a business meeting at a newly opened office. My boss was supposed to accompany me, but he'd sent word he'd be coming straight from an out-of-town trip, so I was alone on the train. Unlike the morning rush, it was slightly less crowded in the afternoon, so I was able to get a seat. Thinking I'd review some details about the client, I reached into my bag. That's when I heard it. "Leave me alone. I've told you I'm not interested." A clearly distressed woman's voice caught my attention. Looking over, a young woman who looked like a college student was being approached by a blonde, slick-looking guy. "What's your problem? I told you I'd pay you good money. What's the catch? Trying to up the price? You're greedier than you look." "It's not about that. I just don't trust you, that's all." "Well, despite my humble request, you get carried away, stupid girl." Before I knew it, the man grabbed her wrist, attempting to pull her towards him. "Help! Somebody, please." She frantically looked around for help. Without thinking, I intervened, placing myself between the two. I stepped forward to shield her, looking down at the man. Given my tall stature and strong build, I posed a bit of a threat to him. "What are you doing to this lady?" "None of your business. Move out of the way." The man tried to grab me, but I swiftly brushed off his hand and sidestepped. Unable to stop himself, the man clumsily tumbled to the floor. "What the hell? I didn't do anything. Just dodged." "This is a public space, you know. Avoid causing a scene and bothering other passengers." I then checked on her. She looked shocked but thankfully didn't appear injured. What happened here? Suddenly, a conductor came in a hurry. Just as we were at the station, the door opened and the man made a quick escape. "Are you both okay?" Hearing the conductor's voice, I turned to her, and she bowed her head towards us. "Yes, thank you." Her face softened with relief. She seemed cool at first, but her smiling face looked somewhat youthful. Judging by her attire, I guessed she was a college student, and that seemed about right. "Do you know that guy?" "Well, he's been bothering me a bit about work. I never thought he'd resort to violence, especially in such a confined space. I'm sorry to ask this, but can we get a statement from you? It's protocol." At the apologetic tone of the conductor, we both nodded. It looked like we'd be questioned at a station near her residence. I'd probably be late for my meeting, but it couldn't be helped. I quickly texted my boss and put my cell phone back in my bag. She's a junior at a nearby private college, and her name is Lisa. After talking with her for about an hour, she'd asked for my contact info. I was concerned about a business meeting, so I handed Lisa my business card and quickly headed to the site. By the time I reached the client, the meeting had already ended. My boss gave me an earful, but I was content that I could help someone. I hadn't given much thought to what would happen next. The next morning, as I got off the train and passed through the turnstile, there was Lisa. We made eye contact, and I nodded an acknowledgement. She approached me. "Good morning, Dylan. Thank you for yesterday." "Oh, good morning. Everything okay after that?" "Yes, I got home safely. There's something I want to tell you about that, okay? There's something I want to tell you about. The situation on the train got spread on social media, and that guy, Jake, has been ridiculed. There are some pretty harsh comments. He seems really mad on social media. Jess, there might be some retaliation. Please be careful, Dylan. I just wanted to tell you that." It seemed that was all Lisa wanted to share. She nodded and then quickly left. She has this mysterious vibe, different from the usual bubbly college girls I often see. She gives off a cool impression. She's much younger than me, but I feel like I can't defy her. Despite her stoic demeanor, there's something charming about her. When I arrived at the office, my boss immediately approached me. "Dylan, the CEO wants to see you. Head there now." My boss's tone was cold. He's probably upset about me being significantly late to the client meeting yesterday. I bet the CEO is talking about that too. I felt uneasy, but had no choice, so I quickly headed to the CEO's office. "Dylan, I heard there was an incident on the train yesterday." That was the first thing the CEO said. Our CEO, the second generation in charge, is a laid-back sort of fellow, more like a spoiled young master than anything. He might seem a little unreliable as a CEO of a security firm. I haven't had much to do with him, so I don't know him too well. I nodded in response to his words, and he seemed a bit distressed. "Well, the situation has blown up on social media, and it's become problematic." "What do you mean by problematic? I don't think I did anything wrong." "Well, yes, but..." The CEO's words were slurred, and he seemed evasive while saying, "This is troublesome." The way he kept sneaking glances at me was a tad bit irritating. "Did you have our company badge on? That's why I've been identified, and the other party is furious. They're lodging a complaint." "What? You mean the guy who was about to get violent with Lisa?" "Mind your words. That man is the son of one of our major clients. He claims you embarrassed him and has complained through the company. We have to think about your situation since they are a significant client. We can't just ignore this. How about a transfer, just for a few years?" "Transfer? Where to?" "It's a bit far, but we've just secured a contract for facility security in Nebraska. It's a bit out of your usual job scope, but it was you who caused this issue after all," the CEO said with a half smile. I realized this was likely a demotion. Even though he knew their demands were unreasonable, he seemed willing to sacrifice me to smooth things over. "We can't have an employee causing issues working at the headquarters. You understand. But all I did was try to help. Your intentions were noble, but they've done their research on you. Your father, he's a criminal, right?" My heart sank at the CEO's words. "It's true, my father is in prison. He's divorced from my mom, and I've cut ties with him. Still, the truth haunts me. Because of my father, my mom and I had to move away from our hometown. I've recently been able to spend my time peacefully. However, the weight of society's prejudice is still heavy. I thought you had kept it hidden well until now, but if I had known that, I would never have hired you in the first place. Still, you should feel lucky you weren't fired. I've cut ties with my father, so he has nothing to do with me. I'm offended. Even if you say so, others might not see it that way. Having you in the main office causes various problems. Your very presence harms the company." Why did I have to hear all this? I clenched my fist tightly. Seeing my reaction, the boss looked at me with disdain and spoke. "Resorting to violence. No wonder people say sons of criminals are just trouble waiting to happen. What's this about wanting to help people? In the end, people like you can't do anything." I felt my blood boil at his words. If I punched him now, I'd be playing right into his hands. If I hurt him, it might become an assault case. I clenched my teeth and bore it silently. I closed my eyes and counted to 6 in my head. Doing that helped me calm down just a bit. Taking a deep breath, I summoned all my strength and shouted, "If this is a company that can't help people, then I quit. Fire me or whatever." Getting too heated is one of my bad habits. I know it, but still, the words of the boss in front of me were something I could never forgive. After being told by the CEO to get out, I left the company and was heading to the train station. Wondering what to do next, I went to a bookstore near the station. While flipping through a job magazine, a woman approached me. "Oh, Dylan, aren't you supposed to be at work?" "Hi, It's nice to see you again, Lisa. Lisa was the one who called out to me. As she looked up at me, she had a few complicated books and a fashion magazine in her hands. She gave off a mysterious vibe, but looked her age, which gave me butterflies. Job magazine. Are you changing jobs? Yeah, kind of. Is it because of what happened yesterday? At Lisa's words, I tried to play it cool, but I couldn't. My friends often joke about how easily readable I am, calling me an open book. I'm not good at hiding things. I'm sorry. It's my fault, isn't it? No, it's my fault. Some family issues came up, and I decided to quit. You mean your wife? No, I'm single. It's my dad. But never mind that. So, I thought I might look for a new job. I have some savings, so I'll be fine for a while. Lisa looked down, deep in thought. Then suddenly, looking up, she gazed deep into my eyes. Dylan, how about becoming a bodyguard? What? Caught off guard? Before I knew it, she had grabbed my hand and was leading me somewhere. I found myself in an office room. What's this place? My company. What? But aren't you a college student? Starting a business in college, isn't that rare, right? She then guided me to a sitting area partitioned off in the corner of the room. Several people were working in the office, the sound of keyboards clicking away. She spoke briefly with someone in the back and then turned back to me. Well, I'm technically the CEO here. Started this company a while back, turned a profit here and there, and now we've grown big enough to have this office space. We develop apps targeted at young women, and I guess we made about $50 million last year. We're a legit business, so we offer decent benefits, health insurance, and all that jazz. Whoa, hang on a sec. You're going too fast for me to keep up. Oh, I'm sorry. Would it help if I start from the beginning? Oh, Lisa, don't you think you should do something about that habit of yours of going off on tangents? While I was racking my brain, a slender man with glasses brought me a cup of coffee. Nice to meet you. I'm Luke. I co-own this place with my sister. Think of this place as a co-working space. I heard about you from my sister yesterday. Thank you for helping out. You're welcome. Lisa can be a bit blunt and has had her share of troubles. As her brother, I worry about her. Do you really need to explain all this now? Lisa looked slightly annoyed as she shot her brother a glance. The familiar vibe between the siblings made me chuckle a bit. To be honest, I've always hoped she'd have someone to look after her. She's a genius, and many companies are after her. It would be a disaster if someone took forceful ways on her, like what happened yesterday. We would be so grateful if someone like you could serve as her bodyguard. A genius? Yes. Call me a proud brother, but she's been involved in app development for years. Last year, she released a photo editing app that became a huge hit, and there are several others. As Luke listed the apps, I realized I had heard of them. I knew she was talented, but I had no idea she was this accomplished. I was at a loss for words. We'd like to formally hire you. Would you consider it? I mean, I'm very honored. I just lost my job, so I'd gladly accept. When I replied, Luke reached out for a handshake. And here I am. Lisa, sitting in the corner of the couch, looked a bit sulky, but in this moment, she looked endearing. We then discussed how I would operate as Lisa's bodyguard. I'd drive her to and from work, and when there are company errands, we'd go together. Other times I'd take on some light chores around this office. Even though I'm older, Lisa is technically my superior, so I decided to be respectful towards her. But she told me to be at ease. She said it makes conversations more straightforward. I'm not great with polite expressions, so I was grateful for that. Our main concern is about Jake, right? Why is he after you? Lisa frowned with a hint of annoyance and responded. Jake's the third son of a pretty reputable company. His older brothers are outstanding, but he seems to know he's not up to par. He thinks that if he can't achieve much during college, he won't be the successor. So he targeted me. He probably believes that if he can take over my company, all the profits will be his. If he can't maintain the app, he'll plummet in no time. He wants to take over the company. I asked. Exactly. At first, he tried to sweet talk, almost like a honey trap. When that didn't work, he started to harass. He's so childish and persistent. It's irritating. We go to the same school, and I've heard nasty rumors about him, so I've been wary. Lisa sighed deeply, showing her genuine distress. Harassment like what exactly? I asked. Spreading weird rumors at school, cyberbullying on social media, and then there are these threats, she said, showing me a large number of threatening letters. They contain some pretty vulgar words. I know a detective. Maybe we can consult him, I suggested. Really? But do you think it's something we should take to the police? She asked. It's better to have a record of these things. Let's gather evidence, I said. I called up an old high school buddy of mine, John. We don't meet often because he's super busy, but he's one of the few friends I still keep in touch with. I reached out, and he quickly responded, willing to listen. He hasn't changed much since high school. Back then, we were buddies on the same wrestling team. It felt nostalgic, but there was no time for reminiscing. This is the threatening letter. There's a lot. It comes to the office almost daily, but this alone might not be enough. It would be good if we can pin the cyberbullying on him, but if he's using multiple fake accounts, it's going to be tough, John said. Is that so? He almost assaulted her, you know. Isn't that enough? I asked. Almost isn't good enough. If I hadn't stepped in. Well, if you hadn't stepped in back there, who knows what would have happened to her? Isn't that just hindsight? You didn't do anything wrong, John said with a chuckle. His words felt like a lifeline. I realize I've been unknowingly bothered about losing my job because of that incident. Lisa smiled at me too. Exactly. I might have gotten punched and hurt, and thanks to Dylan, I was safe. I'm truly grateful. Thanks, both of you, she said. As I spoke, they both nodded in agreement. By the way, there's a strange rumor about Jake. Can we discuss it? Lisa asked as she pulled out a file from her bag. It was something I'd never seen before, and I tilted my head curiously. I was being consulted by my friend. Could you take a look at this? The document Lisa presented contained a pamphlet from some company and a printed screenshot of a cell phone display. John's expression changed dramatically as he went through it. Lisa, can you gather more evidence? This is a serious crime, he said. His earlier gentle smile was now gone. His eyes blazed with intensity, resembling a detective chasing a criminal. Lisa, unafraid of John's intensity, smirked confidently. Of course. Leave it to me, she said. Some days later, I found myself at a local diner eating pancakes alone. The pancakes, topped with whipped cream, may not have seemed like my style, but hey, I liked them. Sipping my hot chocolate, I strained my ears to catch every word from the conversation between the man and woman behind me. So, Lisa finally coming around? The man asked. Sometimes it's better to delegate than do everything yourself. I wanted to tell you that I've been wanting to introduce you to trustworthy people to collaborate with in your business, the woman replied. Thank you. I'm curious to know more. I'm also interested in your other ventures, the man said. Other ventures? The woman asked. Yes, a friend told me I have a lot of things I want. You know, I would like some more money. Hi, I get you, no worries. It seems like she got his attention. I had heard Jake attended the same university as Lisa. I thought he was smart, but perhaps I overestimated him. Jake, with his flamboyant looks, handed Lisa a green pamphlet while talking smoothly. It was the same one John had seen at the police station. Jake's voice became noticeably quieter and more discreet. I've got this business where we call various speakers for seminars, kind of like study sessions. There's an initial membership fee, but if you introduce friends, you get some cash back. And don't worry, it's not some weird cult or something. We don't push products on you. The very fact he had to clarify it wasn't some weird cult was suspicious. I wondered if what he was doing was even legal. Looking at the brochure, Jake seemed eager to explain the profitable strategies, the kind of people you can meet, success stories, and such. He seemed unaware that Lisa was becoming indifferent, only offering half-hearted responses. Additionally, he chatted on about private stocks and foreign currency investments. Meanwhile, Lisa was amusing herself by wetting a paper bag for a straw and watching it wriggle. Either Jake didn't notice, or something was off with him. So, what do you say, Lisa? Will you join? Do you have any videos or something about the seminar? Send me the link. I'd like to see it before deciding. I'm considering it, though, seriously. I'll send it right now. Jake was in a good mood and operating his phone. Soon enough, a notification sound indicated that a video had been shared in the group chat between Lisa, John, and me. The seminar's content was very sketchy. Hell, you're Jake, right? Suddenly, a soft, tenor voice broke the silence. With a friendly smile, John and another detective appeared next to where Lisa and Jake were seated. We'd like to have a word with you. Mind accompanying us? John reached into his pocket, flashing his police badge. You seem to have had quite an interesting conversation earlier. We'd love to hear more. What? How could it be you? Jake seemed suspicious of the undisturbed Lisa, or had noticed something. In no time, his face turned red, and he lunged at her. I instinctively moved and slid myself between Lisa and Jake. Jake's fist hit my cheek, but it was just a slight jolt and not really painful. Such a loosely thrown punch had no effect. I stared into Jake's eyes and smirked. He let out a pitiful squeak and tried to pull his right hand away, but I firmly grasped his wrist. Ah, you're that guy from... Yeah, I'm the one who lost my job because of you. Whoa, why? I'm Lisa's bodyguard now, so you punched me, huh? That's right. Arrested on the spot for assault. Maybe I'll take my time hearing about the other stuff. Ready for what's coming. One would let their guard down with Chan's gentle demeanor, but he's dozens of times scarier and stronger than me. Being glared at by him, it seemed Jake lost all will to resist. Man, there was no need for you, a civilian, to get punched. If I had been the one, we could have charged him with obstructing an officer. I messed up, sorry. Ha, just kidding. Honestly, you helped. I bet we can now trace back to all the culprits. It's amazing no more victims were hurt. It's thanks to you. Saying that, John raised his right hand and straightened his back. He saluted me, giving his respects. John knew the reason I couldn't become a cop. We had promised to pursue it together, but it didn't come true, and he knew the bitterness I felt. Still, the fact that he remained a friend meant everything to me. My father was deceived by someone and got arrested. He had unknowingly become a courier for a particular crime. Being ignorant is almost as if it's a crime, and he couldn't just excuse himself by saying he didn't know. Even now, he's regretting his past behind bars. I knew that police departments look into the criminal history of family members, so believing I couldn't pass with my father in jail, I never tried. It's my life's only regret. Having turned 30, I can't become a cop anymore, and yet John saluted me with such respect. I was touched by his gesture and bowed my head in gratitude. Thank you, John said. Then he climbed into a squad car and drove away. Some time later, news broke about the arrest of a large scam group. From college students to working adults, many had fallen into their web of deceit. There was a surge in the number of victims, especially among college students, and helplines were broadcasted on TV. As for me, I'm working as a bodyguard in Lisa's company. But hardly anyone causes trouble like Jake did. I've mostly been tidying up the office today. The window panes are gleaming, the floor is shiny, and I even wiped down the guest sofa. Lately, I've taken a liking to cleaning and even watched cleaning tutorials on YouTube after work hours. Cleaning can also be a form of exercise, so it's killing two birds with one stone. Lisa, reflecting on recent events, is enthusiastic about developing an app to help women easily send out SOS signals. She also mentioned organizing an awareness event in college to prevent scams. She's currently on her college break and is fervently working on her computer in the office every day. I have no idea what she's doing, but I believe she's creating something fantastic. Since then, I have realized that there are as many forms of justice as there are people. Becoming a cop and catching bad guys isn't the only way to protect people. Like Lisa, developing tools for self-defense or raising awareness to avoid scams is also protecting people. Protecting her and creating a safe workspace also contributes to that goal. In my own way, in my own place, I'll uphold my sense of justice. With that in mind, today too, I'll enjoy my cleaning-cum exercise routine.